The darkness of the night has completely covered the royal palace of Rome. In the golden halls with tall pillars, the dim light of torches is burning. There is a strange silence in the air, but behind this silence, a fear is hidden. Suddenly, a scream echoes, then another, then the sound of fast footsteps. Soldiers are standing outside the door, but no one has the courage to go inside, because inside is the King of Rome, a ruler before whom even powerful generals tremble. Such a person, who was once beloved by the people, but has now become a symbol of fear. This is the story of a man who gained power, but lost control over himself. This is the story of Caligula, a name which is remembered in history not only for ruling, but for madness, cruelty, and downfall. Caligula, whose real name was Gaius Julius Caesar Augustus Germanicus, was born on August 31st, 12 AD, into a family that was the center of Rome's power. His father, Germanicus, was one of the most famous and respected generals of Rome. He was not only successful on the battlefield, but also extremely popular among the people. Historians such as Suetonius, Tacitus, and Cassius Dio write that Germanicus's fame was so great that some people wanted to see him as the next emperor. Caligula's mother, Agrippina the Elder, was also a strong and influential woman who could go to any extent for the honor and status of her family. But this powerful family was a victim of internal conspiracies. Childhood environment. Young Caligula often stayed in military camps with his father. He wore small military clothes, especially small boots, which were called caligae in Latin. Because of this, the soldiers lovingly started calling him Caligula, which means little boots. This name later became famous all over the world. But behind this innocent childhood, a dark reality was hidden. Political conspiracies and tragedy. When Caligula was only a child, his father Germanicus died suddenly. According to Tacitus, this death was not natural, but was suspected to be poisoning, in which people close to Emperor Tiberius might have been involved. This incident was the first major shock of Caligula's life. After that, his mother, Agrippina, and his brothers were exiled due to political rivalry. Some were imprisoned, and some were starved to death. Just imagine, a child whose family is being destroyed before his eyes. What effect would it have on his mind? The Court of Tiberius, a school of fear. Caligula was later taken to the court of Emperor Tiberius. It was a place where there was power, but no trust. Here, everyone doubted each other. According to Cassius Dio, the court of Tiberius was full of conspiracies, killings, and fear. Caligula learned an important lesson here. To survive, it is necessary to hide your emotions. He became silent, started observing, and hid his real personality deep inside. Suetonius writes that Caligula hid his true nature like a perfect actor so that he could survive. Rome, the most powerful empire in the world, and the ruler of this empire, an old, suspicious, and fearful emperor, Tiberius. Wisdom behind silence. On the island of Capri, where Tiberius spent the last years of his life, Caligula lived with him. This was not a royal life. This was a mental prison. Constant surveillance, constant fear, constant suspicion. According to Tacitus, Tiberius doubted everyone, even those close to him. And Caligula knew, if he made even the slightest mistake, he too would be eliminated, like his family. The peak of acting, Caligula completely changed himself. He praised Tiberius. He obeyed his every word. He kept his thoughts hidden. Suetonius writes, "No one in the world was a better hypocrite than Caligula." This was not hypocrisy. This was a fight for survival. He was learning how power is gained and how it is maintained. The game of succession. In the final days of Tiberius, the question was, who would be the next emperor? Two names were in front: Caligula, Tiberius Gemellus, the grandson of Tiberius. Tiberius, in his will, made both of them joint heirs. But in the politics of Rome, shared power is often a deception. 37 AD, the moment of power. When Tiberius died, a new hope arose in Rome. Caligula was accepted as emperor. The Praetorian Guard supported him. The Senate also accepted him. And thus, a young man who had lived in fear for years had now become the master of the greatest power in the world. The hero of the people. The early months of Caligula's rule were astonishing. Political prisoners were released. Exiled people were called back. Taxes on the people were reduced. Games and public events were organized. According to Josephus, the people of Rome loved Caligula because he reminded them of his father, Germanicus. People felt, a just ruler has arrived. A new golden age is beginning. Emotional strategy. Caligula used the memory of his family. He buried the remains of his mother and brothers with honor. He expressed his grief in front of the people. These were not just emotions. This was also a political strategy. People came closer to him. He was no longer just a king, but had become a beloved figure. The taste of power. But all this was only the beginning. Power is an addiction that changes a person. Caligula had now achieved everything for which he had waited patiently for years. Now there was no one to stop him, no one to challenge him. And this was the moment from where his story began to take a dangerous turn. The storm within. That child who saw his family dying, that young man who lived in fear for years, was now a king. But the fear inside him was still alive. And that same fear, very soon, was going to turn into cruelty. Rome was still celebrating. There was light on the streets. People were congratulating each other. Music was playing in the palace. A time when it felt that the empire had entered a new golden age. But behind this happiness, a silent change had already begun. Sudden illness, or something else. At the end of 37 AD, Caligula suddenly became severely ill. Historians such as Suetonius and Cassius Dio write that this illness was so dangerous that all of Rome was praying for his life. According to some accounts, he had a fever. He had gone into unconsciousness. His mental condition was affected. But the real question is, was this only a physical illness or something else? Return, but a changed man. When Caligula recovered, he was no longer the same person. This change was not gradual. It was sudden, severe, and terrifying. According to Josephus, people felt that there was an unusual change in Caligula's behavior, as if he had become a different person. A new concept of power. Before, he cared for the people. Now, he only cared about himself. Before, he showed humility. Now, he began calling himself a god. He had temples built for himself. He ordered people to worship him. He began to consider himself equal to Jupiter. Cassius Dio writes, Caligula often said that he was not just a man, but a living god. This was not just arrogance. This was a disconnection from reality. Rule of fear. Now Caligula's style had changed. He gave death sentences over minor matters. He had people arrested without reason. He humiliated senators in public. According to Suetonius, he often said that the people of Rome deserve only one thing, and that is fear. Insult of the Senate. The Senate of Rome, which was once the center of power, had now become a spectacle. Caligula forced senators to bow before him, forced them to run while he was on horseback, publicly humiliated their honor. This was not just personal ego. This was a message. Now power belongs to only one person. Destruction of wealth. Caligula had spent the treasury on the people in his early rule, but now the treasury was running out, and to fill it, he chose a dangerous path, confiscating the property of the rich, killing people by creating false charges, adding their wealth to the royal treasury. Josephus writes, "In Caligula's time, wealth became a crime because being rich became dangerous." Psychological change. All this was not just cruelty. It was a mental deterioration. According to historians, possible reasons: confidentiality, trauma, living constantly in fear, suddenly gaining immense power, mental effects after illness. All of these were creating a personality that was drifting away from reality. Fear of the people. Those same people who once liked him now began to fear him. People spoke in whispers. They talked behind closed doors. They trusted no one. Rome was no longer a city. It had become a silent prison. Symbolic events. One incident that shows his mental deterioration. Caligula ordered that his statues be placed in temples. Even in the sacred place of Jerusalem, his statue should be placed. This decision could have caused a major religious conflict. According to Josephus, this order could have given rise to a dangerous rebellion, but fortunately, it was not completed. The intoxication of power. Caligula was no longer just a ruler. He began to consider himself the law. His words were law. His desire was reality. His command was final. And this was the point where a human stops considering himself human. Now Rome had entered a terrifying phase, where check justice had ended, check mercy no longer remained, check and power had completely corrupted. Public punishments. A spectacle Caligula did not keep punishments as just punishment. He turned them into entertainment. Prisoners were killed in front of the public. People were thrown before wild beasts. Spectators were forced to enjoy this dhulm. Cassius Dio writes, "Human life had no value for Caligula. He took pleasure in their suffering." Incitatus, a mockery of power. Caligula's most famous and astonishing act, his horse, Incitatus. A marble stable was built for him. He was fed in golden dishes, and the most astonishing thing? Caligula spoke of making him consul. This was not just a mad act. This was a clear message. The system of Rome is a game for me. Killing of close ones. Caligula did not only kill enemies, he did not spare his close ones either. Courtiers, advisors, even family members. According to Suetonius, Caligula trusted no one, and his only solution was killing. Financial destruction. The treasury was now almost empty, and Caligula found new methods. False cases, heavy fines, forced donations. People's lives had now become just a game. The peak of fear now in Rome. No one was safe, no one was powerful, no one was free. Everyone knew that they could be next. Considering himself a god, Caligula had now completely broken his connection with reality. He wore the clothes of gods, presented himself in the form of different deities, forced people to worship before him. According to Cassius Dio, he often said that both heaven and earth are under his control. Mental isolation. Despite power, Caligula was alone. No one trusted him. No one loved him. Everyone feared him. And this isolation was increasing his madness even more. Seeds of rebellion. Now hatred against him was growing. Senators were angry. Soldiers were fed up. Even the Praetorian Guard was restless. This was the moment where history was about to take a new turn. Rome, which was once a symbol of power, order, and law, had now become a center of fear, uncertainty, and silent rebellion. Inside the palace, there was still gold, marble, and grandeur, but behind this shine, a collapsing empire was hidden. Silent rebellion. Caligula thought that he dominated everyone, but in reality, the Senate had started to hate him. The army had become distrustful of him. The people were terrified of him. And most importantly, his own guards, the Praetorian Guard, had also started thinking against him. These were the people whose duty was to protect him, but now they themselves were becoming the foundation of his downfall. Cassius Correa, a silent enemy. An officer of the Praetorian Guard, Cassius Correa, loyal from the outside, but filled with hatred from within. Caligula often mocked him, called him weak, made sarcastic remarks about his masculinity, humiliated him in public. This was not just a joke. This was continuous humiliation. And history tells us that continuous humiliation often gives birth to rebellion. The insecure king, Caligula, had now started doubting everyone. He did not trust even his guards. He kept changing his courtiers repeatedly. He lived in constant fear. Suetonius writes, "He frightened others, but he himself lived in constant fear." It was a strange contradiction. A person who wanted to control the world, but could not control his own mind. Dangerous decisions. Caligula's decisions were becoming more dangerous. He announced military campaigns without any clear purpose. He issued strange orders. He continued to declare himself equal to the gods. A famous incident, he took the army to the seashore and ordered, "Fight against the sea!" The soldiers were astonished. Then he ordered, "Collect seashells from the sea as spoils of victory." This was not just a joke. This was a symbol that the ruler had now completely disconnected from reality. Growing fear. Inside the palace, courtiers spoke softly, walked with lowered eyes, even held their breath. Because one wrong look, one wrong word, one wrong moment could become death. Formation of a conspiracy. Now the situation had reached a point where silent hatred began to turn into an organized conspiracy. Cassius Correa was not alone. Many officers, some senators, and courtiers all had reached this conclusion. If Caligula remains alive, Rome will be destroyed. This decision was not easy, because he was not just a king, he was the center of a powerful system. But every system has a limit, and Caligula had crossed that limit. 24th of January, 41 AD. It began like a normal day in Rome, but for history, it was a decisive day. The final day, Caligula was attending a ceremony in the palace. Actors were performing, the temperature was pleasant, routine activities were continuing in the palace. But in the hearts of some people, a storm was raging. Cassius Chaerea and his companions had made their decision today. Searching for the moment. The assassination was not easy, because Caligula was always surrounded by guards. But every powerful person leaves a moment where he is vulnerable. And that moment arrived. The attack. Caligula was passing through a narrow corridor where there were fewer guards. Suddenly, Cassius Chaerea stepped forward and struck the first blow. Then the second. Then the third. Caligula fell, but the attack did not stop. Many attackers joined in. He was stabbed repeatedly until his breath stopped. According to Cassius Dio, Caligula's death did not happen in a single moment, but continuous blows ended him. The complete end. This was not just the killing of a king. It was the end of an entire system of fear. After this, his wife was killed. Even his child was not spared. This decision was harsh, but the conspirators feared that if the family remained alive, revenge could be taken. Rome's reaction. When the news spread, a strange reaction came in Rome. Some people were happy. Some remained fearful. Some could not even believe it. Because a person who considered himself a god, could he also die? It was a shocking reality. The story of Caligula is not just the story of a mad king. It is a mirror of human nature. Power and human. This story teaches us power can change a person, but in reality, it reveals his true nature. The fear inside Caligula, his childhood, his pain, all of these existed within him. Power only set them free. The rule of fear. A system built on fear is always weak. People can be afraid temporarily, but not forever. The principle of the end. History tells us again and again, the end of oppression is always downfall. Caligula, who considered himself a god, in the end died like a human. And this is his greatest reality.